Welcome back. Now we've already finished the stairs right here. What we need to do is create the railings for these stairs and for the balcony up here. So we have plenty of work to do. Let's just jump in and get started. Okay. Let me just move over here. If I go to the creation tab and I go to the standard primitives drop down right here, I have lots and lots of objects, not just stairs, but I also have a category over here called AEC Extended. If I go to that category, I get myself a few different things. I can create foliage, I can create walls, and most interesting of all, I can create railings. So let's go ahead and select the railing and create a railing here very quickly. And you can see what happens. Essentially, you can create railings automatically with 3ds Max. And this really helps you to get these things going and saves you a lot of time. And if we go to the parameters here, we basically have, if I go ahead and close all of these, we have basically 3 sets of parameters. We have the railing parameters, we have the posts, and fencing. So let me show you very quickly what the difference is between all of these. Railings is going to control the overall railings up here, including the top railing up there and the height of the entire thing. And I can also change the profile. Okay. I can change the length here. We're not going to worry about that at the moment. You'll see why a little bit later. The top rail and the lower rails are broken up into their own separate parameters. For the top rails, we can choose a profile. Now there's 3 you can choose from. You can choose no profile at all. So there's basically no top rail, as you can see, which wouldn't be good. We have a round profile, which creates a sort of round cylindrical type railing, nice and smooth. We also have a square. Okay, so it's pretty simple. We have different parameters as well. We have a depth parameter, which we can use here. We have a width, and we have, of course, the overall height. Okay. Doing some research on the internet, I found that one of the standard heights for these is about 36 inches, which is 3 feet. So that's basically what we're going to be working with. For the lower rails, we can change a couple of different things here. We can change the profile of the lower rails. And you can see as I go to none, you can quickly see which are the lower rails. The lower rails is that extra rail that comes here in the middle. So I could choose round or square. Let me go with square. I could also change the depth of the lower rail and the width. Okay. I also have this little button here, and if I click on that little button there that has something that looks like a ruler with 3 little green dots, it opens up the spacing tool. And the spacing tool allows me to change a lot of different parameters, as you can see. For example, I could change the count of lower rails. So right now by default there's 1 lower rail. I can make 2, 3, 4, 5, however many as I need or want, or I could even make just 0 and have none. Okay. I have a few other options here which are locked right now. I can't adjust these options, like the spacing offset for the start and the end. And that's because I have this drop down list here that says divide evenly, no objects at ends. If I open up that drop down list, I can see that I have a ton of different options here for choosing how I want to go ahead and adjust this. For example, say I want to adjust this by the start offset and specifying the spacing. If I select that, now I can't control the count. See if I start again, 3, 2, 1. Now I can control the spacing here, so I can choose whatever custom spacing that I want. I can adjust the start offset here. Okay, so based on what you choose in this list, different options and parameters are open or closed to you. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit cancel, and if I hit cancel, I'll close this too and I'll undo any changes I made if I'm not happy with it. If I am happy with the changes, I'll just hit close and it keeps those changes. Okay, let me go to the post parameters here, and the post parameters also allow you to do the same thing. I can choose no posts, and posts are basically these posts that are at the beginning and at the end of the railing. Okay, so I can choose round posts or square. I can also choose their depth, so I can make them wider or thicker. I can also adjust the extension here, so I can make them come up higher than the top railing, which really doesn't look too good. Or I can make them lower than the top railing for whatever reason if I wanted to do that. I can also open up the spacing tool for the posts, and I can adjust the number of posts that I want. As you can see, I can make a lot of posts. Okay. Then I have the fencing parameters here. Fencing are these little posts that go in between the first and the last post. Those are the little fencing. And we have 3 different types of fencing shapes that we can choose. We can put no fencing, or we can choose pickets or a solid fill. And solid fill is just going to give us solid geometry there. Okay. And depending on which one of those two you have selected will determine what parameters are open. So if I have picket parameters here, it's because I have the pickets chosen up here. If I switch to solid fill, the solid fill parameters down here will be the ones that become active. So let's go to pickets. And again, you can choose round pickets or square. You can also go to the spacing tool here and you can choose how many pickets you want in between. Okay, so let me hit cancel. So it's very basic and very simple the way that works. It makes a lot of sense. So let me delete that. Now let's create our railings over here. Okay. Now I'm going to need a railing for the top balcony up here for this side and the far side there. I'm also going to need a railing for this little part right there. Don't want anybody falling down from there. And we're going to need railings for the staircases as well. So let's go ahead and let's get started. What I'm going to do is go back to the creation tab here, go to railing, and I'm going to hit S to turn on snaps. I'm basically going to snap the railing to this vertex here in the corner of the balcony, to this corner over here, and I'm going to bring this up like so. There we go. Alright, so let me go to my modify tab over here. Okay, for what I'm going to do, I only want to use posts. I don't want to use any pickets. So I'm going to go to fencing and I'm going to turn pickets off. For posts, I do want to use posts. Let me see. Editor, edit that video. Start again. 3, 2, 1. I'm going to leave the post as it is for the moment. I'm going to go to railing here. I don't want a lower rail, okay? I'm going to turn off the lower rail. Now let's see what we're working with here. Let's open up our concept image and see what these railings are supposed to look like. So here's my concept image here, and this is the railing here. This is a very basic railing. It doesn't have the details drawn in. You can see how it's supposed to be. You can see the general spacing between the little posts right there. Okay, and let me go. Okay, here's a good reference image. We're going to be creating some details similar to this, kind of these little wavy type shapes, okay? That makes the railings much more interesting, because if we leave it open the way it was in a couple of these other ones, like this, doesn't look too interesting, looks too simple, and that's no fun. So what we're going to do is we're going to complicate ourselves by creating these more complex type shapes here for the railings, as you can see. Kind of this design here, as you can see, these wavy shapes, okay? We're going to be creating that. So that means that we don't need any posts or anything running across here horizontally. So let me close the reference image. That's why we don't need these lower rails right here. We just don't need that. So I'm going to get rid of that. We need a top rail, of course, because if we didn't have one, we'd have a serious problem. So I'm going to keep the top rail. Now, the height right now is about over 6.5 feet. I'm going to reduce that to 3 feet, okay? So it's coming here. Alright, now the top rail is too thick right now. It's just too big. If you see that, it's kind of exaggerated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the depth here and I'll lower that to, let's do it 1 inch. 1 inch, yeah, that looks pretty good. Now for the width, let's come in here and let's change the width. Let's try something like 2.5 inches. Alright, the height is perfectly fine. Okay, so I like that for the top rail up there. Okay, and now let's go to the posts down here. Okay, and the posts are a little bit too big as well, so let me reduce the size of that. Let me change the depth to about 1 inch, and I'm going to change the width also to 1 inch. Alright, I want them to be a little bit thinner. No extension here. I don't need them going through the top rail or anything like that. It's a little too crazy. So I'm going to do it like this. Like this looks pretty good. Okay, now let me go to the post spacing tool. We need a lot more posts for this. Okay, let me hit cancel real quick and zoom out just so I can see this a little bit better. Okay, and let me go back to the spacing tool here. And for the count right now it's set to 2, but that's too few. Let's add some more. According to the reference image, we needed quite a number of posts. So we have about this many posts right here. I think 8 posts is going to work out just fine. So I'm not going to adjust any of the parameters. This is perfectly fine, looks good. I'm going to hit close. You also notice that when I created the railing is kind of hanging over the edge right here a little bit, which doesn't look right. We're not going to fix that now. We're going to fix that later on. It's not that important at the moment. Okay, so I like the way that my railing looks. It's roughed out, okay? The basic form of it's pretty good. Let's create a railing for the other side over here. I could clone this one and snap it over here, but I think I'll just find it faster to just come in here and create a new railing with snaps turned on. And the only thing that I have to do is go to the railing parameters and adjust the height, make it 3 feet. And because 3ds Max remembers the previous parameters for the first railing, it applies them to the second railing, so I don't have to make any adjustments to the second railing besides the height. We also need a railing right here in this area. So let me take the house geometry here and isolate the selection just to make it easier for me to do this so the other railings don't get in the way. I'm going to go to railing creation here, and same deal. Immediately we have to change the height, and we also notice that we have way too many posts. Let's get out of isolation mode. We have much too many posts. So let's go to the post parameters, open up the post spacing tool here, and we have to reduce this count to about, let me see, we might just go with, yeah, I guess we'll go with 1 right there. Will be just fine. So I'll hit close. It looks good for now. If I have to make adjustments, I'll make them later. Okay, right. So that looks pretty good. Okay, I'm gonna end this video here, and in the next video we're gonna create the railings for the staircases, which is gonna be a little bit more involved and just take some more tweaking.